Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Kerrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinekerrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about natural healing. Now, our guest today is Aimee Cabo. Aimee is the author of a wonderful book called Love is the Answer, God is the Cure. And you can find out more about Aimee Cabo at her wonderful website, godisthecure.com. Welcome, Aimee Cabo.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, we're going to be talking today about something that a lot of people go through, both men and women, but there's not a lot of general discussion about it. So it tends to be something that ends up being hidden, and that is abuse and recovering from abuse.
Apparently, it is the big taboo. People are afraid to talk about it because most of the time the person who is abused feels like it's their fault. They don't want to say anything, and it's hidden. It's kept under the covers, but it's more prevalent than you think. I've discovered that 1 in 4 girls will get sexually molested before the age of 18 years. And it is very prevalent. And I think that the more that people realize that it's okay to talk about it, that they're not alone, that we're here for one another, that we can provide transparency, and that we can be therapeutic in that way, then the more that we can survive this and be successful in life.
Yeah, and this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I spent 2 years in a support group for battered women myself. So I experienced it from my father, my biological father, and also from my first husband. So Aimee Cabo, what is your opinion as to if people who've suffered abuse, can they go on to live a normal life?
Well, it's not always easy. Everybody's different. For me, it took me a very long time. I made a lot of mistakes. But the one thing that I had constant in my life was my faith for God. And eventually, I think it gets to a point like a drug addict. I saw that actually today on TV. You get to a point where you say enough is enough, or I'm done with suffering, or I'm done with self-sabotage, or I'm done with putting myself through this. I deserve more than this. You find a way to forgive yourself. And if you do tap into your faith, then you start changing your behavior, your actions. If you pray, at least when I pray, I'm able to find strength. Every day could be a challenge. And I start every day with a prayer, a rosary.
Your book, Love is the Answer, God is the Cure, is a book that anybody can use as a handbook to recover from abuse, correct?
Well, it's a guideline. It's pretty much basically saying, don't give up, always go forward, fight, do what's right, believe in what's right, have hope, know that somebody loves you, even when everything looks like everything's gone wrong and the whole world has betrayed you and everyone has abandoned you. There's still God. And you have every ability to be like somebody else, or just as much. We're all special in this world. We were born for a reason. We have a purpose in life, and that wasn't to suffer.
No,
I guarantee it.
Aimee Cabo, would you be willing to share for our audience the story that led you to write this book?
Well, it pretty much started when I was a little girl. I think I went through sexual abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse probably from 7 years old to 15 years old by my parents. And then I went through some foster homes, and I was raped a few times. And also I had a domestic violence experience where I had lost a pregnancy, and then the child that did survive, I went through 14 years custody battles with that. And then my daughter almost got killed. Somebody tried to kill her and put her in a coma for 24 days. And it's just different instances in my life that I've had to really call on God. And had I not had that, I don't know how I would have made it. And it's just the basic principles and teachings that God tells you, not that it's not all about you, to think about others around you. If you do love unconditionally and you put others, if you take the people around you, your support system into consideration, then sometimes you learn to just be better just for them, and it works.
Well, that's a lot for one person to go through in one lifetime.
Thanks.
Now, from your personal experience, Aimee Cabo Nikoloff, what do you think helps people recover from abuse?
Well, what a lot of the times, the best thing that could be for somebody is a good support system, to have somebody that cares, somebody that'll listen to them. But in a lot of cases, people that have gone through abuse or trauma, at least I know that in my case, that I actually have PTSD, I needed to go to a psychiatrist. I needed to get medication. It's a holistic thing. You need a support system that you can trust, that is there for you. You need medication. You need somebody that can give you good advice. And you need to pray and have faith and believe in what's right, and just believe that, you can go on no matter what. There's no reason to hold back.
Now, I want to share with our audience exactly what abuse is, because a lot of times, we may have people in the audience listening or watching and thinking about, am I being abused? And if I am being abused, what can I do to get help? I know for myself, what really helped me, the YWCA, for which I'm eternally grateful, has support groups all over the world on domestic violence, and they have support groups for battered women. But I also want to point out that it's not just women who get battered, it's men also. Isn't that your experience? Do you have any statistics, Aimee, on the number of men?
I think with boys, it was 1 in 6 boys. 1 in 6 boys. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys.
And this is sexual abuse?
It's yes, sexual abuse. And the problem is that because it's such a taboo, I did tell my mother about it when I was 7 years old. She kicked him out for 2 days and he came back. And then I knew never to say anything again. See, I didn't know what was going on was wrong. So I just knew I caused my family to fight. And the abuse just progressed and continued for many years. And I hope that, through my book and my honesty, because I did put it all out there, I hope that people will realize it's something that it's okay to write about. It's not something that you need to be ashamed about or something that you have to be embarrassed about or hide. It's not something that you did. It was something that was done to you. And you deserve better. Most people, they suffer, but they have to understand that it's not happening over and over again. You don't have to be a prisoner of your past.
That's a really powerful message, Aimee Cabo Nikoloff. Now, for our audience, I want to direct our audience to a really very important resource. So if you go to Google or any search engine for that matter and search for the Wheel of Power and Control. Now, the Me Too movement that we've all heard about is pointed out where there's a lot of sexual abuse and, power plays using sex, but there's many ways that we can be abused. So please, if you're following and you're wondering whether you're abused or you're being abused or whether you've been abused in the past, go to the Wheel of Power and Control. And I know this is a very hard thing to look at, but I'm going to go through the Wheel of Power Control for our audience. So, and these are not necessarily in any order. So one way that you can be abused is using fear. So the individual makes you feel afraid by the way you look, act, or move. The individual can smash things, destroy your belongings, be mean to your pets, or show off guns and knives. Another form of abuse is abusing your feelings, putting you down, making you feel bad about yourself, calling you names, making you think you're crazy, playing mind games, making you feel guilty. Now, another form of abuse is making you be alone or isolation, controlling what you do, who you see, who you talk to, where you go, limiting your outside activities, using jealousy to prove that the abuser's actions are okay. Another form of abuse is blaming and denying, making light of the abuse, not taking your concerns seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, saying someone or something else is responsible, or saying that you caused the abuse. It's your fault that you've been hit or these other things. Using the kids, this is a big one, making you feel guilty about having kids, using children to give messages to you, using visits to the children to bug you, making threats to take the children away from you, being bossy, male privilege, treating you like a maid, making all the big decisions, acting like the boss all the time, being the one that decides which jobs are for the men and which are for women. And again, I want to point out that men get abused, women get abused, and people of all sexual orientations get abused. Using money, another big one, stopping you from holding a job, making you ask for money, not giving you enough money, taking your money away, not letting you know about family money. And then the eighth one, and we haven't yet gotten to physical abuse, using force and threats, making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt you, making threats to leave you, kill you, or report you to authorities, making you drop charges, making you break laws. And then if you study the wheel of power and control outside this, it's physical violence. So understand that physical violence is, of course, a form of abuse, and along with sexual abuse and rape that Aimee talked about. But when a person can control you through these other ways, sometimes subtle ways, they don't necessarily have to hit you. Aimee, you're
right. That's the emotional abuse part.
Yeah. So Aimee Cabo, Nicola, what's your comment if somebody's wondering whether they're being abused or whether they've been abused in the past? What would your advice be to them?
Well, to tell somebody, to talk to somebody, they need to know that people do care, and it's okay to say it. Just like, like if you fall and you get a scrape in your knee, you're going to tell somebody, oh, the other day I got an injury. It's not, we don't have to believe that it's something that's bad on us. We have to understand that it's something that we've been able to survive, and something that maybe we become better people because of. Because I know that I've grown in a lot of ways from all that I've been through. I've learned a lot of things. I've learned, like, for example, ATP, always think positive. And that's what I tell people. Sometimes people who are skeptical tend to think a little bit negative, or they think the worst case scenario. Let's say the worst case scenario. So I say ATP, always think positive. How about think the best case scenario? So the whole time until it happens, you spend your time well. And if you're wrong, oh, well, you're wrong. It's okay. You can accept failure or defeat or not getting what you want right away. That's okay. But if you think the worst case scenario, then you spend your time worried or not. You don't spend a good time. It's not nice until it happens, and you may be wrong. So it makes sense to just think positive.
Yes, and positive thinking is really important, but if you're listening to this broadcast and you realize that you're currently being abused, I strongly encourage you to reach out to a domestic violence hotline. So we've got listeners all over the world, so look for domestic violence hotlines wherever you are.
And also there's websites on, I've seen it on Facebook. There's online counseling. Any online counselor, they will, talk to you sometimes just for free the first time. So, just anybody that it works in the psychological field or in the health personnel would be able to help.
Right.
It's just the sooner that you can speak about it, the sooner you can stop the cycle and it doesn't go to the next person. Because the silence is what happens is that it allows it to grow. It allows it to get worse and it allows it to manifest for many, many years undetected.
Yes. And just realize that you're not alone and that there are support groups for people who have been battered.
Yes, there is.
Now, Aimee Cabo, your book, Love is the Answer, God is the Cure, you've got a particular story to tell because you went through truly extreme abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, isolation, pretty much everything that we discussed in the Wheel of Power and Control. Do you think there's a cure-all solution for people to recover from abuse? I mean, the first step I feel is you have to get out of the abusive situation. So call a hotline and then figure out how you can get out of that situation because you cannot heal an abuser. Don't try and fix them. It's not going to happen. But once you're out of that situation, how do you go about recovering?
Well, I can only speak about me. For me, the therapist or the person in the hotline is only there for that moment or for what they can tell you for that moment. But what happens all the other days or the days when you're alone or the days when you're alone in the world? Medication only works so much, 35% of the time. So I had to depend on my frame of mind, the way that I looked at things, how I viewed things, that I would not live in victimhood, that I decided to be a fighter and go forward. And when I hit rock bottom and I had absolutely nothing, then I had no other choice but to turn to God. And when I found a purpose in getting close to God and being a better person and working every day to be a better person, I learned to love myself. I learned to forgive myself. I learned to be able to love others. And it kind of all falls into place. You learn to appreciate life. You learn to be grateful. You learn to treat others the way that you really should have treated them. And you'd be surprised how many more things come to light when you pray, when you get close to God. And that's what was the cure for me.
Now, Aimee, how important do you think once someone is out of an abusive situation, they've extracted themselves from the situation where they're being abused, how important do you think it is to learn to love yourself so that you don't allow yourself to be abused again?
It's extremely important because somebody who's abused, especially somebody who's severely abused, will develop negative coping mechanisms. Not only will they have a negative way of looking at the world, and it doesn't matter what anybody tells them, they can't convince them otherwise, and they will self-medicate and they will make mistakes. But then that's a chain reaction. Then they start to hate themselves for the mistakes that they've made or for their character flaws or for their ways that they're being, and they don't understand there's symptoms of their depression. And it's very important to understand that you don't have to be perfect, that you can be human, that you can forgive yourself because after all, God forgave us. And look what we were doing to him. So, why can't we forgive ourselves? I made very bad mistakes, but I learned to forgive myself. And it made a huge difference because it was the way that I was able to find peace.
Now, again, very, very powerful messages and one that a lot of people in our audience really need to hear. One of the best things that I ever read about abuse is that the roots of abuse go to childhood because sometimes mommy or daddy really don't actually love the child. Like they're not capable of loving the child. And so the child grows up with this faulty self-image, which is why I asked you about loving yourself. So they develop this idea, I deserve to be abused. There's something wrong with me. And even if you've been abused in childhood, realize that you may have faulty programming that even if your mommy or daddy are not there to abuse you, that you may actually seek out other situations to be abused because you feel there's something wrong with you. So to unwind those thought patterns and those core beliefs, like Aimee said, and really learn to love yourself and see that it's okay to be human and forgive yourself is really, really important.
Because and also to forgive others who have harmed you, because in forgiving others, you're actually forgiving yourself. You find peace in that. There's no reason to hold on to resentment or to hold on to anger. That only eats us alive. We just need to learn to love one another unconditionally, because we all have character flaws. Nobody's perfect. Focus on our good sides, focus on our positive sides, and just strive to be better to each other and to be there for one another. I think that's our main purpose in life, is just to do the best that we can with ourselves and with one another.
Now, Aimee Cabo, I can tell that you really have healed from what has happened to you by what you just said. A very powerful message. Because some people who are listening think, well, if somebody raped me or abused me or hit me or stole my money or took my children, what they did is wrong and I don't have to forgive them. I'm not going to forgive them.
I made a promise to myself a long time ago that I would not let any person or any situation change who I was, who I want to be, who I know I ought to be, who God intended me to be. And because I'm not going to give them that power. They don't have the right to affect me. They don't have to affect me. I don't have to be a textbook classic case. I may have been at one point, but that isn't my story forever. It isn't a death sentence. Everything passes.
Yeah, so when we forgive others, it doesn't mean that what we now think that what happened was okay. It's that you're willing to let go of the bitterness, resentment, and even judgment, right?
Yes.
And completely letting go of that energy so that our whole energy system, our mind, body, spirit isn't caught in that trauma.
Yes, that's very important. And speaking of judgment, it's also important to know that the more that people listen to victims speaking about their abuse, and if it's in the past, it's usually a success story. And it's important that people understand that, because you may see somebody that reacts very short-tempered to something that you would act normal to, and you think, oh, what's going on with that person? But you don't know if there's an underlying cause, if that person has depression, if that person has PTSD. So that's why it's important not to judge them. Or if you know that the person's a victim of some sort, it doesn't mean that you need to feel sorry for them or anything like that. They're a regular person just like everybody else. Understand? And it's just the way that people just need to understand one another.
Now, when someone is out of an abusive situation, how do we go about getting our power back? What's your recommendation, Aimee Cabo Nikoloff? How do you shift out of that victim thinking into really being in your power?
Liking who I was, doing things that made me proud of myself, whether it be exercising or cleaning the house or helping somebody out or a kind gesture or volunteering for something. If I feel like I'm doing something meaningful or worthwhile, if I feel like I'm working towards a goal or a purpose, if I keep myself busy with things to do and responsibilities, and I feel like I'm worth something and I make my day count, that's how I get my power back. Because there was a time that I wasn't very proud of myself. There was a time that I didn't like who I was. There was a time that I wish I was never born. I know what it's like to be on the other side, and it's much better on this side.
Now let's go back to people who may be listening to this broadcast and they realize, oh my gosh, I realize I'm in an abusive situation. What do I do? What are my next steps? Aimee Cabo Nikoloff, how do you recommend that someone get out of an abusive situation?
Well, it's never easy. There's never the right way or the perfect way. You just have to do it. the first chance, the first opportunity you get. For me was, with my domestic violence situation with my father, my first daughter's father. I just had to wait till he went to work the next day, and I just took my daughter, the clothes on her back and the clothes on my back, and they left. And I just put my trust in God. And there was times that I didn't know where I'd end up, but you know, the funny thing is that when you have God in your life, you always put somebody there that might help you out, or somebody that might give you the information you need, or somehow He helps you out. And otherwise, I would not have survived as long as I did. Not on my own, at least until I got married, but I was 27.
So that took tremendous courage to leave, I'm sure.
Well, you always think that you deserve it, or it doesn't matter because you're not good enough anyway, or you love him too much and you rationalize it or excuse it until your maternal instincts take over. And a mother's love is stronger than her love for her man.
You know, what's funny, I never had children. And but when I was in the YWCA support group for battered women, I would volunteer once a week. They had a little nursery for children of mothers who had been abused, who were in the women's shelter, and I would volunteer to go and take care of those children while their mothers went to their support group. And what really convinced me to leave was seeing the little children, because even when they were pre-verbal, they were unable to speak. Even though I wasn't a domestic violence expert, I could tell that those children had suffered tremendous trauma. And I thought, I don't want to bring a child into any situation like this. And I wanted to protect any future children of my own. And end up, I never did have children, but it was literally seeing the children who had been growing up in those situations, and the trauma they had obviously experienced. And it was evident by their behavior. I thought, I have to get out. I have to find the strength to get out. So how do you think, Aimee Cabo Nikoloff, how do you think it affects children to watch their mother or father be abused?
Well, I left the abuser, but when my daughter was a year old, he took me to court 3 to 4 times a year, claiming parental alienation, coming in with documented lies. Him and his wife, he had a business, he had the money. I was the orphan, single mother at 18. So that was the things that they put our daughter through when she went to her father's house. They used her as a pawn, and they tried to poison her against me. And you may not notice the effects when they're a child, because children seem to be very resilient, but you notice the effects as they get older. And it does come out where they have some personality issues or relationship issues, that because they've had parents that have been very manipulative and have used them. And that's a form of abuse. It's a form of emotional abuse. And so, yes, I mean, it could really affect children. But luckily, I had my daughter in therapy once a week throughout all the years of custody battles. I was hoping that she would have somebody neutral to talk to. And I think that's helpful when children are involved in situations that are abusive, to try to find some counseling for them as soon as possible.
In addition to counseling for your daughter, is there anything else that's been especially helpful for your daughter in recovering from growing up in a childhood like that?
Well, I think my love, my nurturing, my guidance, the memories that we've created together, the fact that she knows that she can be loved, that there is true love. Hopefully I set a good example. I don't know. And hopefully those things helped. I don't know. I've been given the awesome privilege of raising her, and I tried my best. All you can do is try, right?
Absolutely. Now, Aimee Cabo Nikoloff, do you think that when people have been abused, how important is it for them to talk about what's happened, to talk about what they've gone through and their experience?
Well, a long time ago when I was 15 and I was in a psychiatric hospital, one of the technicians that knew me quite well, he said, he told me I should write a book. And I found out later on in life that writing is very therapeutic. But also, I've joined a support group for childhood trauma and domestic violence called CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, usually, I guess, chronic, I don't know. And I've learned a lot of things just reading other people's testimonials. And I've learned that speaking about it is therapeutic just as much or even more, because you actually get the person speaking back and you get the feedback and you get the support back. And when you speak about it, the more you speak about it, the more you become desensitized to it. You don't realize it's so terrible. You realize it's not so terrible. Our perception is very important, and our mind is very powerful. You could really use it to your advantage.
Now, how do you recommend, or do you have any suggestions for people who are overcoming post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the abuse they experienced?
Well, do I have any suggestions for them that they're overcoming it as a result? Yes, I do have suggestions for them. I suggest that they reach out to others that may have experienced the same thing, that they realize that now they're an expert on it. So that's one good thing. There's the bright side of that. They can now tell somebody else how they made it, how they were successful. We can all share ideas. We all can bring something to the table. We can all learn from one another. So use it for something good. Don't let it go to waste, and just don't let it affect you, because if you really think about it, in third world countries, there's a lot of horrible things happening, and there are people way worse off. And the problem's only as big as we want it to be. So let it go.
Now, obviously, the extreme trauma that you went through is very depressing. How do you deal with the depression, and how did you overcome the depression? Because you seem to be very at peace with yourself now. So, like I said, you've done a great job of personal healing.
Well, it's one day at a time. At least that's what the lead singer of Imagine Dragons says, because he does deal with depression. And somebody asked him that question. He said, one day at a time. That makes sense, because for somebody who does have PTSD and suffer from depression, the challenge, it could be an everyday challenge. I can wake up from nightmares and not remember my nightmares, but I don't feel well. So I know I've had nightmares, and that takes away wanting to even get out of bed. But for me, it's really easy. I just turn on, I ask Alexa to connect to my phone, and I turn on the video from Facebook of the rosary prayer. And for some reason, I tell you, it's really weird, but after I pray that rosary, I all of a sudden have the strength to get up, take a shower, clean my room, go to work. I don't know. It's just like that for me. That's what worked for me. I don't know. I've been trying to listen to other people, get other ideas, see what might work for others, because what worked for me doesn't necessarily work for others, but there's one idea.
That's a really good idea. Because, whenever we're praying to a higher power, we're putting ourselves in a loving vibration. Why do you think that unconditional love is so important, especially for people who experienced abuse, often in intimate situations where they expected to be loved from their mother, father, or partner?
Well, after experiencing everything in life, I was actually blessed with a wonderful man. And I mean, to me, he's a saint. He's a beautiful person. He's amazing. I have amazing children. I still got a bachelor's in nursing, and I still succeeded in life. But my success was not my career or how big of a house I have or what I have. It was the fact that I have true love in my life. The fact that I've come to realize that God did love me unconditionally, and my life is evidence of that, because I definitely don't deserve God's love. I let him down so many times, So, unconditional love is really what makes the world go around. It's really the answer to everyone's problems.
Now, if somebody's watching this broadcast and they're, in that place, in that hopeless space, maybe they realize, oh my gosh, I realize I am being abused. I'm going to have to do something. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know if I have the money. How can people in that hopeless space connect to the unconditional love that's available to all of us?
Well, there's always somebody out there that does love you unconditionally that you can turn to. And if there isn't, if everyone has betrayed you, if everyone has abandoned you, then know there is God. And you can always tap into that, his unconditional love. If you have nothing at all, you could always count on God. And there's always somebody that you can talk to. Be a hero, stop the cycle, save the next kid by saying what's going on. And we should not like shelter and be so like feel so sorry for a victim. We should, like, instead of encourage the person who suffered and say, you're a great person, you did great, you did awesome, good job for coming forward, and make it a good thing to talk about it, not a bad thing to talk about it.
Now,
So that's another idea.
again, if there are people in our audience who are currently going through abuse or who've gotten out of an abusive situation, what would you like these people to know?
I want them to know that they're not alone, that there is hope, that they can make it in life, that if they feel that everything else has failed them, that there is God, that life is worth a fight, it's worth living. I mean, the miracle of chance that we are even born is amazing. There's so many miscarriages. So I don't believe we're born by chance or it just happens to be. I believe we're born by fate, and there's a reason and there's a purpose. And there is hope because there is a God, and there's always someone that you can turn to. Always something you can see when you go on the internet, something that you can read or listen to on Facebook, or someone that you can talk to, or a website or a support group that you can join, or a website support group or an online counseling service. Just don't give up. Just keep trying. You're worth it. God loves you.
Now, one of the common things that happens when people have been abused, again, whether it's physical abuse or whether they're being hit, or sexual abuse or emotional abuse, or all the ways that we talked about that you can look up on the Wheel of Power Control, one of the common denominators is that it erodes and erases your self-esteem. How can people who've been abused restore their self-esteem and feel good about themselves again?
Well, they can start. What I did was I set reasonable goals for myself of behaviors and actions that I would like of myself that were better than the ones I was doing at the moment. And as I reached those goals, I may have increased it or added a few more things. And as I did more things, sometimes I surprised myself. I'd be proud of myself. My self-esteem would grow. It helps to have somebody that loves you, that compliments you. But just working on yourself and setting goals for yourself and achieving those goals and giving yourself responsibilities and attaining those responsibilities. Just the fact that you can do it, because the problem with the self-esteem is that the person believes that they're not able to do anything. They just can't do anything. So the more you do, the more you realize you're capable, and the more your self-esteem will increase. I believe at least that's how it happened to me.
So I have a simple suggestion that anyone in our audience can undertake, whether you've been abused or not. And this is a simple self-esteem exercise. What you do is you make a list of 20 personal qualities. So let's say, I'm honest, I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm spiritual, I'm healthy. And you make a list of at least 20 things that are your personal qualities. And also, when you have loved ones into your life, your friends, your family, you go to people that you care about and say, hey, I'm working on my self-esteem. will you make a list of 20 personal qualities that you think that I have? Like, I have a funny laugh, or I'm so kind to animals. When you get your list, you get your smartphone and you record, you go to the notes section, all the smartphones have a list, and you make a recording, and it needs to be in your own voice because it's what you tell yourself and what you believe about yourself that's the most important. You record in your own voice. I'm spiritual. I'm kind. I'm loving. I'm forgiving. I'm great. I'm sweet to animals, and so on. You make this recording and then listen to it at least 5 times a day. You can listen to it when you're commuting. You can listen to it when you're going for a walk, and just change those messages so that you come to believe and to experience that you are a valuable person. And again, like Aimee said, when you—
That's a great idea. That's a really great idea. Also, we had the advantage of having a business coach come into our business, and she taught us about behavior over the line and under the line, which would be accountability, responsibility, and ownership. And that's what the characteristics that we try to practice instead of excuses, denial, and what was the other one? Oh, I forgot it. But there was here the excuses, denial. What was the other one?
So taking ownership.
Blame. Excuses, denials, or blame. So we don't want to be everybody. Excuses, denial, and blame. We want to be unique and special. Accountability, responsibility, and
Right. Now, Aimee, do you think that anger can be a positive thing if you find yourself in an abusive situation? Because if anger gets out of control, then people can get hurt, either physically hurt or emotionally hurt.
Well, unfortunately, there's not much you can do about anger when people have been abused. They will exhibit anger. They just have to learn. I mean, at least I had to learn to control it because it was necessary. And they will have misplaced anger. And once they realize where that anger is coming from and they place it in the correct place, I think for me, I came to a realization where I realized I didn't have to be angry anymore. There was no reason to be angry. It was just a choice that I made to think differently, to act differently, to live my life like Jesus, I guess. That was my idea.
So, Aimee Cabo, what do you feel is the best way for other people to empower an abuse victim?
I think the best way that other people can empower an abuse victim is just basically by being there for them and sharing their experiences and being able to talk about it and letting them know it's okay, and providing a platform where they're able to express their thoughts and their feelings and exchange ideas. And I think the person will be empowered because both of them are helping one another.
Right. So just basically being present, being emotionally present, and listening.
Yes, listening. That's very important.
Right.
Sometimes people just need to air out, and that's good enough. Just any way that you can be there for somebody is good enough.
And good enough. And
yeah.
When you look over, because you went through quite a lot, how many years do you think it took you to overcome your abuse?
Oh, like, I say 7 to 27. 20 years.
20 years. Yes. And so it took you 20 years, but you did it, right?
And 20 years to grow up. Yes.
And did every year get easier, or what was your perspective as you look back on your healing path?
It's been interesting. But the fun part is that I was able to share it with somebody when I was 27, my husband. And it's been interesting. It's been fun. What have I learned is that a lot of times I worried for nothing, like with the custody battles, with my daughter almost dying. In the end, it all worked out because God is in control. In the end, it's His will and it's perfect. So I worried. And I realized that a lot of suffering I did for no reason So, but at least you live and you learn. And I'm grateful for all the things I've been through. You know, I'm grateful that I've learned a lot, and I know that there's still a lot to learn. So here I go. I'm just taking the ride.
Aimee Cabo, author of Love is the Answer, God the Cure. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Sure. I want to let your audience know that God does love them, and that, you know, they can work on the power of the mind, or they can go to therapy, or they can do yoga, or they can there's an existential psychologist that talks about having responsibilities and making goals, and one that talks about, there's a website where you find out your personality and you make goals for the future, because then you feel better and all that. But if you're feeling really, really bad, really the only thing there is when you've hit rock bottom is God. And it's amazing how much your life will change once you're forced to discover God. And for some of us, that's just how it happens.
So thank you so much for sharing a really powerful message. You're very brave to write the book, and you're very brave to get on the radio and share your journey. You can find out more about Aimee Cabo at godisthecure.com. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Kerrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinekerrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about natural healing. And remember that if you have been abused, if this is part of your past, you can talk about it, you can heal from it, and you can become a stronger person because of it. Thanks so much for listening, and Aimee and I both encourage you to love yourself wherever you're at, wherever you are in your journey, because the more you love yourself, the more you're going to inoculate yourself to future abuse. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.